Hey, boss of YouTube, what's up all you UCL fans out there? How's it going? Welcome to the Week 6 UCL Season 3 Power Rankings with myself, SixftHax. For those of you who don't know me, I don't know why you don't know me, but hi, my name is Leo. I was the Season 2 champion. Didn't get to participate in Season 3. Regardless, though, have been enjoying this season. Speaking of this season, we are at the very end of it almost. Next week, Week 7, is the final season, not the final season, the final week of Season 3. And then we're going to be going right into playoffs. And I think playoffs should be very, very exciting as well. I think there are definitely going to be some interesting playoff matches. And I may be covering like the playoff matchups like I did for P4G when I uploaded them. So let me know if that is something you guys would be interested in, me just kind of looking at the matchups for the playoffs and then kind of giving my thoughts of the matchups and stuff. And I don't know, but let me know in the comment section below as well. What is your favorite match of week number 6 of the third season of UCL? My favorite match this week, I think, was definitely Shady versus Nappy. It was a very back and forth battle and did not go how I expected, and it was a pretty good match overall. So if you guys do want to check that match out, definitely go check it out. As for my power rankings, you guys are going to see it in this video. And actually, there is something I want to mention about the power rankings, but I'll worry about that when we get into the actual numbers and stuff popping up. So if you guys do enjoy, hammer arm that thumbs up button down below. Let me know what your favorite match was and what was your own power rankings for week number 6. So I think with that being said, go check out the Discord for the UCL, go check out the Reddit for the UCL, and make sure to go follow the UCL Twitter so you guys can find out when potentially season 4 is happening in who may be joining that or not joining it. I don't know, but yeah, go check out all that social media stuff down in the description. So let's go ahead and pop the numbers up on the screen here. So I've had some people commenting saying that they don't like how the numbers are ordered, but for me it's really weird because I've had people say, well, why don't I put number 1 up where number 8 is? Basically switch the order, like put the top row at the bottom, but put number 8 where number 1 is, and then put number 1 where number 8 is, and then go like 2, 3, 4 and like that. But I find that weird because I start from number 8 and go to number 1, so it would be starting from the bottom right going up to the top left, and I don't know, I feel like that's just a little bit odd to me. Like, I could try it for this one. I guess another way would be to put number 1 where number 4 is, and then swap 2 and 3, so it's a top 8, and then it kind of loops down from the bottom from number 5, goes down to number 4, then over to number 1, back to it being under number 8. So I think I'll be trying something a little bit different here, and you guys can let me know how it goes. Just, I feel like the way I've been doing it since like week 3 or so, I think it's been pretty well enough, like 8, 7, 6, 5 on the top, and then 4, 3, 2, 1 on the bottom. But hey, I don't know, it is what it is. We'll flip it around. This and the next power ranking is probably going to be the last ones, and then I want to be talking about like the playoff stuff and all of that. So with that being said, enough rambling, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So at number 8, as always, we have my fellow North Carolinian Mr. JYTGamer, aka J Coach of the California, no, that is on the other side of the country, Carolina Keldios. And unfortunately, Jay took yet another loss this week. It was the battle of the 0-win teams, and it was a very fun battle, not gonna lie. I really enjoyed Twit's side of the match particularly, but we'll get into Twit afterwards. So yeah, unfortunately, Jay takes another L this time around. So I feel like in this match, Jay kind of fell back to his old ways. Like, if you guys saw my week 5 and 4 power rankings, I mentioned how Jay was finally kind of getting in like the mindset of trying to set up a game plan, bring something in to sweep, potentially set up and try to sweep. If anything. Unfortunately, though, he kind of fell back into the old routine of where it kind of looked like he didn't have much of a game plan going into this game. He didn't really have like anything too offensively wise, or if it was offensive, it didn't have the speed that it needed to kind of get through what Twit had brought. Mega Beedrill, unfortunately, I don't think did much at all in this game. I think Jay actually sacked it off to a Scarf Celebi, which, I mean, I guess at that point in the match he didn't know it was Scarf. Another thing he kind of did that was a little bit odd in my opinion was that he left in Magneton on Celebi, and this was kind of the same instance that Twit was in last week's match, I think, where your opponent brings in something and you think, all right, well, their typing is weak against my typing, so they can't do anything to me. but then they don't take into consideration the possibility of a coverage move that they have, so just a super effective move to hit them with, or they don't take into consideration that, oh, maybe this thing is faster than me, maybe it's got a weakening berry. And I think that's where Jay definitely got caught off guard, because Celebi, well, it being Scarf didn't matter, it did turn out that Celebi had the earth power, and because Magneton is naturally slower than Celebi, there was no way for him to find out that it was Scarfed until later in the match when Twit got another KO with it against the Mega Beedrill. So him losing Magneton was really bad for him, because Magneton, I think he said, was his best answer to the Mega Scizor, and if he had been able to trap it, it would have just died, honestly. The thing about it too though is that when you're in a scenario like that where you know your opponent has something that can trap you, it's really down to kind of mind games. Like, do you think they're gonna predict you to bring in the Mon that traps them and them switch out, or do you think they're gonna stay in with that Mon and let you trap them? And that's where I think Twit had the little edge on Jay, because originally I think Twit did stay in, and then the next turn is when he U-turned as Jay brought in the Magneton, and then from there Magneton got KO'd, and then ultimately when Sticky Webs went up, Magneton went down, Beedrill went down, those webs went up, and the match was pretty much over at that point. Like, literally the last half of the battle, I think, is just Jay trying to switch in and out, gain some type of momentum, apply some type of pressure, but unfortunately there was just not really anything that he could have done at that point. And I found it a little funny that he thought Toxapex would be able to 1v1 a Karen Black. Typically that's not the case, but I guess it is kind of understandable this time around, just because Karen Black only had access to one Z move, or one Z crystal, sorry. Typically Karen Black is if it's with Z moves, it can use any Z move, so like Z ground or Z electric easily beats Toxapex. But I guess here it is kind of understandable because it's only a Z crystal. Then again, if Karen Black had been like Roost Life Orb, I think Karen Black still would have been able to 1v1 the Toxapex regardless. But yeah, Toxapex just literally did nothing this match, and it was more of a liability to him, if anything, than Starmie. He didn't really play Starmie well either, but this is what I meant by, like, he kind of got back into his old habit of where it seemed like he didn't have that much of a game plan, and maybe if he did have a game plan, he would have been able to do a little bit better. But either way, I think the matchup was pretty rough for him, just because Twit's team is so hard hitting and able to take advantage of most of Jay's walls. So yeah, Jay stays at number 8 here. So moving on to number 7, we have Nappy Boy 92, the King Nappy, coach of the Regions. And Nappy takes a bit of a dip here, mainly because last week Twit was number 7, and Twit finally winning made me so happy, so I had to justify moving Twit up just a little bit. But yeah, Nappy falls here to number 7. Well, I don't think he played his match against Shady bad at all. Like I said, him versus Shady was my favorite match of this week, because it was really back and forth, and it was like blow for blow, like sacking something off to then sack something else off from each player, vice versa, and it was a really entertaining match regardless. But in this match, I was able to notice that Nappy just kind of played very safe for the most part. He kind of got into a cycle of what he was doing, just kind of making the same switches over and over again, not really trying to capitalize on certain switches or certain predictions. And I don't know if it was him who mentioned it or it was Shady, but it was like, if you know something's gonna happen and you don't capitalize on that, that ultimately kind of affects you in a sense, because it kind of makes you think, well, what if I had made this play, then what would have happened? But you didn't make that play, so you need to stick with the, I don't want to say the incorrect play, but the less viable play, I guess is a way that I could put it, or the least appealing play in a sense. But then again, you get into the thing of like, well, if I had made that play and he didn't make the play I'd expected him to make, then that play probably would have cost me. So yeah, it was just a big thing about, I guess, 50-50s that happened in this match, and for the most part, Nappy didn't really try to capitalize on them, and it was very telling in this game. Also, the fact that he was not able to get that flinch on Premier. Actually, well, I guess the flinch didn't even matter, because it still, well, no, he still would have outsped. But the fact that he didn't KO Primarina nor got the flinch was really huge, because once Jirachi went down, that opened up the window for Tornadus to kind of just come in and just click Hurricane. And I'm gonna I'm gonna get on Hurricane when I talk about Shady later, but unfortunately, I think Nappy did kind of get a little bit unlucky this match, and for the most part, the fact that Shady had Scarf Tornadoes, I think really messed Nappy up, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Nappy had Scarf Flagon and Scarf Hoopa, both of which do not outspeed Scarf Tornadoes, so that was a brilliant prep idea on Shady's part. It was a little weird, honestly, but it was really smart on Shady's part. And then at that point, like, the match kind of came down to the wire, and ultimately Shady was able to just edge it out a little bit there. But I definitely think him not getting the flinch on Primarina, or not KOing Primarina, was really big, because him having Jirachi around would have been amazing for the Metagross and the Tornadus, potentially even the Nidoqueen if he was able to outspeed it. So yeah, unfortunately that is Mon sometimes, and that's all I really have to say about this match. It was still a really good match, like it was still very fun to watch, very back and forth, very entertaining, but for the most part I think playing wise, Shady just kind of had the edge in this game. So moving on to number 6, we have Hi, I am Twit, that friend though with the Frodo. Did I say Frodo? No, you don't look like Frodo. Anyways, yeah, we have Twit at number 6, and very happy that Twit finally won a match here against Jay in their game. And I do want to say that it was really cool to see Kieran Black finally use Z Free Shock. I think this was actually the first time that he brought it for any match, or the first time he brought it and was actually able to use it. So that was really cool. After webs went up, Kieran Black was very obviously a huge problem for Jay to try and deal with. Jay kind of really struggled once the webs went up. Scarf Celebi able to pick up the 2 very important KOs on Beedrill and Magneton, getting rid of 1/3 of Jay's team, and some of his offense in general was really huge, because at that point I think the game almost went down to timer, if I'm not mistaken, or it was very close to ending, and then ultimately Twit was able to win regardless of what would have happened there. But the fact that he was able to get those surprise KOs, he was able to get up the webs eventually, is what I think ultimately won him the match here. Those webs were really, really huge for him to apply offensive pressure with Kieran Black especially, and the fact that he was also able to get up rocks turn 1 along with Jay was able to apply even more pressure to Jay, and I think ultimately it did force Jay to rapid spin, and he was able to knock out the Starmie with, I think, the Scizor, if I'm not mistaken, because Starmie needed to rapid spin, and I think Twit ended up going for the U-turn to knock it out and just finish it off. And I think at that point, like literally the halfway mark was him getting up webs, and then again, like I said about Jay was trying to struggle some way to get some type of offense in, but Twit was not having it. Twit was able to just kind of maintain control of the entire match at that point. Even if it looked like Toxapex was a bit of a pain to take down, ultimately the pressure was enough, and he was able to beat it and pull out his first victory. So very happy for Twit pulling out the win here. So moving on to number 5, I don't know why I was about to say number 4. We have number 5 here, which is Mr. Shady Penguin, coach of the New York Yankees, moving up, I believe, 2 spots, 1 or 2 spots, I think, for his very well played victory against Mr. Nappy Boy 92. So playing wise, I don't really think Shady did anything too incorrectly. Him getting up Tailwind with Mega Latios was a little bit odd in my opinion, because he wasn't really able to put himself in a position of where he could take advantage of the Tailwind. I guess Tailwind did kind of make some sense if he really did want something like Primarina or Metagross to put in work against Nappy, which is very understandable, although I do feel like Tailwind or Mega Latios was just a bit of an odd bring in general, but it has it has merit in some type. No, it had very decent potential to allow his slower, hard-hitting mons to put in a lot of work. What I really liked this match, at the same time, I thought was super, super weird, but once you really think about it, once you watch the battle, you see what sets Nappy has, this set made a lot of sense, and that was Scarf Tornadus. He led Tornadus as Nappy led Flygon, and he even mentioned in his video that what he should have done was just switched out Tornadus, because ultimately he really lost more than he gained turn 1 in this battle. because Nappy led off with Scarf Flygon, as Shady led off with Scarf Tornadus, and Tornadus obviously outsped Flygon. So literally all the information went to Nappy on that turn 1, and you don't really want to give your opponents too much information about what sets you're running. I have a perfect example of a game of where the lack of knowledge that my opponent had because of 1 or 2 of my sets was ultimately why I was able to win me the match, because he didn't know exactly what set one of my mons was. And this is a perfect example of where if he had just hard switched out, Nappy would have never known that Tornadus was scarfed, and he wouldn't have had that very early knowledge. And I think that might have been more beneficial to Shady in the end. I guess in the long run of the battle, honestly, it didn't matter whatsoever, because Scarf Tornadus was actually just such a huge bitch for Nappy to deal with. Like, Scarf Tornadus was a giant problem for Nappy to deal with, and it very well showed throughout this game. Also, the fact that Shady hit 3 hurricanes in a row. Did you sell your soul? Did you, like, what did you do so you could hit 3 hurricanes in a row? I don't know how anybody does that. Also, no, hurricanes chance to confuse is not 50%. That is a lie. Then again, I thought it was 20%, but it's 30%. Hurricane only has a 30% chance to confusion. It's not 50%, okay? Just wanted to clear that out. But yeah, it is a 30% chance to confusion with Hurricane. Not 20 like I said last video, and not 50 like he said in his battle. So just want to clear that up. For the most part, his prep I felt was really odd. I think he said he brought Choice Banded Metagross. And if you really look at Nappy's team, Choice Banded Metagross just makes no sense to me, because that allows something like Setup Flygon to come in, Dragon Dance. Jirachi can come in to potentially Calm Mind, Substitute. Swampert eats any Meteor Mash for days. I figured Grass Knot would have been really nice for him to have on the Metagross. For the Swampert, Pursuit would have been really nice to potentially trap Hoopa if it locked itself into a Psychic type move. The Primarina, it being Liquid Voice, was also just really odd. I don't like that at all. Like, don't give me, like, I think Primarina is amazing. Primarina, in my opinion, is very underrated, an absolute monster, something I really want to use again in a future draft. But it just does not make sense with Liquid Voice when literally you can just Scald or Surf. Even Hydro, you could have just brought Hydro Pump. Well, I guess you have the chance to miss, but you're already playing with Hurricane and Meteor Mash, so why not? just risk it. Just forget it. Just go all out. But it was just really odd, I think, that he brought Liquid Voice Primarina. I guess it was kind of cool to see Water type Hyper Voice, but it didn't really matter in the end. I don't know. I just thought that was really odd. Also, again, the lack of knockoff. And do you know how useful knockoff Incineroar would have been in this battle? It would have got rid of Swampert's leftovers very early in the match. Got rid of Celebi's item potentially as well. Even Jirachi, like, just getting rid of items in general can give you such a huge advantage in a battle. But outside of the weird prep and the kind of misplay with Tailwind Latios, I think for the most part Shady did play this match very solidly. Again, it was a very back and forth battle, consistent sacking of things and just mons going down in general, and then the surprise factor of the Scarf Tornadus. That was very brilliant. I definitely like that set. I think it's still really weird that he brought it, but if you think about it, Nappy would definitely want to have something that's slower, be faster than Tornadus, and Shady completely took that away from Nappy by having Scarf Tornadus. He was literally just in control of the speed tiers the entire match, and yeah, very well played game by Shady. That's all I gotta say. So moving on to number 4 here, we have my boy, my pal, my compadre, Mr. Nexus, coach of the Pittsburgh Pichus. So Nexus has kind of been on tilt. Just that I don't really know any other way to say it to you. Really just, woo, this was a real landslide of a loss and a landslide of a victory for Mo. So it was very obvious this game that Nexus was just not really confident. He had the same problem last week when he played Nick, and this time around it really showed. And I don't know if he could have maybe played better, because well, actually, there is a couple things he could have done a little bit better. The Suicune missing Toxic on Donphan really did suck, but him still trying to Toxic the Donphan like 2 turns after, I think was really pointless. I think he should have honestly just stayed in and spam Scald. Defensive Mew was definitely a giant nuisance for him to deal with. The double ground types in Nidoking and Donphan unfortunately were enough in the back to just kind of hesitate him from clicking Thunderbolt in electric terrain, and it was very, very obvious when he brought it in against Coco, or when he brought in Coco against Kartana, that he didn't want to go straight for the Thunderbolt because of the 2 ground types in the back. And then Mo stays in, Kartana lives a hit and is able to KO Tapu Koko, and then once Tapu Koko went down, once Suicune was severely weakened, at that point I think the match just kind of went downhill for Nexus. He might have been able to be a little more aggressive with his Megalop, also even being more aggressive with the Nilago would have been really good, because with Kartana gone, Donphan was already down to like 1/3 of its HP. At that point, all he needed to do was just weaken Nidoking, try to bring in Nilago on potentially a weakened Charizard, maybe even a weakened Donphan or a weakened Mew, get that special attack boost, and just start hopefully steamrolling, just trying to pick up as many kills as possible. And that's another thing about Nexus in this match. It was that he was not aggressive enough, and I think ultimately that played into him just kind of getting tossed in the end. His Serena did unfortunately get flinched and crit by the Mew near the end game, but honestly I don't think that would have mattered or changed the outcome whatsoever. I definitely think Mo still would have won. The score might have been a little bit lower, but I don't think that Hax ultimately ended up costing Nexus too much in the long run of the battle. So yeah, there's not too much I want to say about this game. It's just that Nexus was never really able to find good footing. He was never really able to try and gain momentum in his favor. He wasn't aggressive enough when he needed to be. Snorlax wasn't even able to come in and curse up to try and win, and ultimately Mo was able to pull out a very dominant victory over Nexus. So moving on to our number 3 squad here, we got good old Nicholas SacredFire Negro. I see the comments that you guys have been leaving about me not wanting to say SacredFire Negro, and I think I've just been saying like SacredFire Nick or Nicholas, and just it gave me a good laugh. So thank you. Those are some of probably the funniest comments I've gotten throughout like any of the Power Rankings videos. So love you guys for that. Thank you. But yeah, we have SacredFire Negro here at number 3, dropping from number 1 actually compared to week 5. And this match, watching Nick's side, oh my, it was so annoying. It was, and what I mean by that, obviously I don't want to mean it in a bad way, but obviously it sounds like it's a bad way because I'm saying the match was annoying to watch. But the main reason why it was annoying to watch, and I touched on this last week, where if you guys saw the week 5 power rankings, I said that if Nick just takes the time, just sits down for a minute or two, just overlooks the team, looks at them compared to the showdown stats, the showdown movesets, it'll really help him out. And this was a very perfect example, and I hope a lesson he will learn. But I don't know. But he misgenned, or I don't know if he gens his own mons or somebody gens them for them, but the 2 mons were misgenned. Roserade and Megalodios had no EVs apparently whatsoever. And that really cost him in this game. I think he actually did have Scarfed Roserade, if I'm not mistaken, and it wasn't able to outspeed Mega Manectric, so it just died. And then after that, he was just like, alright, I don't care about this game anymore, I quit, I'm done. And yeah, that was basically the game. He didn't care. Actually, then later in the match, Megalodios didn't outspeed Terrakion, and he was surprised by that as well. And then he checked Latios and was like, oh, I don't have EVs on this either, alright, I lose. And he lost. And PK did kind of get bailed out in a sense, but I can't really fault PK, honestly, because PK still played and he still did everything correctly, as where Nick just kind of cucked himself by not double checking his team and not ensuring that everything was correct. The freeze on Registeel I definitely think was very huge, because even if the Megalodios did have EVs, as long as Registeel was around, if he was not consistently spamming Earthquake on Registeel would have been able to easily take down the Mega Latios. And actually, that's another thing. Mega Latios should have easily been able to wear down Registeel, because me and PK did a couple mocks for his match against Nick here, and every time I was just aggressive with Mega Latios. I would predict it to come in, I would stay in, I would ensure that I was always pressuring Registeel, and that's something that Nick didn't do in this match, and Registeel ultimately was actually very problematic for him to deal with. Comfy also was, I think, a very odd bring. I don't think Comfy offered really anything, and like literally, if he's not able to get rid of Registeel, Comfy pretty much does nothing, and he wasn't being aggressive enough against the Registeel for Comfy to be able to do anything. But that goes back to him once he realized, oh, Roserade has no speed EVs. I don't care about this, because he lost it when he should have been able to get off damage on the Mega Manectric. Probably even knocking it out. I don't even remember. I think maybe a Leaf Storm could have knocked him out, or a Sledge Bomb could have even poisoned him. That would have put Mega Man on a timer. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about Nick. Just, my mans, please double check your items, double check your EVs, double check your moves. Like, just sit down, literally, just a minute or two, compare the sets, you'll be straight. And in this match, it really cost him, because he probably could have actually been able to win if he had the right EVs on Rose and Mega Latios. So speaking of his opponent, we have PK Sparks, coach of the Philadelphia for Alligators. I don't think I was loud enough for that, PK. I apologize. So yeah, we have PK here sitting at number 2, and as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Nick, when I mentioned PK, I can't fault PK in this match, even though yes, he might have only won because of Nick's attitude after the Roserade went down, after the Roserade wasn't EV'd and the Mega Latios wasn't EV'd. I definitely do not want to fault him, because PK didn't do anything wrong. You can't fault somebody for somebody else's actions, I guess, if you have no involvement in what their actions were. You get what I'm saying? So there was no way for PK to control that Nick wouldn't have brought the properly EV'd Mons, and there was no way for him to know that those Mons weren't properly EV'd. So yeah, that's why I can't really fault PK, and why I definitely think he deserves to be here at number 2. Plus, he played his match decently well. He did make some questionable plays. I definitely think he could have tried to be more aggressive with the Mega Manectric and the Terrakion, because if you go back and look at the team preview, look at Life Orb Terrakion once Gligar's Eviolite was knocked off, which he was able to knock off the Eviolite like turn 1 or turn 2 of the battle. At that point, that should have opened up the window for Terrakion to be like, hey, pick your sack. Like Life Orb Terrakion pretty much just came in with Rocks Up for free and pretty much murdered whatever Nick wanted to switch in to Terrakion. Mega Manectric also, with Rocks Up, with enough proper pressure, would have been able to absolutely blow back any type of switch-ins. He would have been able to gain so much momentum from clicking Volt switches. So I really feel like he should have been more aggressive with Terrakion and the Mega Manectric, and I really feel like that would have helped him out a lot in this battle. For the most part, I think PK did play decently well. Like, another odd thing that I think PK did in this match was that he got up rocks with his Registeel, for then Nick to get up his own rocks, and then just for PK to defog them away. And this was all in the span of like 3 or 5 turns, I want to say. You don't ever want to waste turns like that. You want to try to use every turn to the best of your abilities, or use it as beneficially as you can. And that was a turn where he gained nothing, literally nothing, after defogging the following 3 turns. Just watch the match, count the turns. It was very short, it was very quick. Like, he got them up, then they were gone, basically. So yeah, like outside of that, I think for the most part, PK tried to do what he could have done throughout this game. He did kind of misplay the Dragonite too, but that's not really his fault, I suppose. Mainly because prep-wise, it maybe should have had speed EVs for Gligar. Nick toxicking it was the right play, but if Dragonite had been able to outspeed Gligar, get up a sub, I think at that point Dragonite might have honestly just won, so that would have been pretty cool to see. But Registeel getting frozen also was a little bit lame, although luckily he was able to kind of get bailed out and win ultimately. So moving on to our number 1 ranked team here, we have the Heated Mojito, Mr. Mojito, coach of the Toronto Togekiss. I was gonna say Tucson again because I was looking at Terrakion on PK's team. So yeah, we have the Heated Mo here sitting at number 1 for week number 6. I think you guys should know why Mo's here. Like literally just go watch his battle against Nexus. And that's gonna be the power rankings, guys. So if you did enjoy, no, but yeah, Mo definitely dominated Nexus in this match. Like there's no real other way to say it. You can just watch the battle and it's very obvious. Like I think he won 5-0 too. I remember at the beginning of the video, he was like, he wanted to make the most safe play, the most like not risky play that he could have made. But he ultimately ended up making so many risky plays, honestly. Like, especially early on in the match. I think he said that he was fearing, like, hidden power fire from Suicune in case the Kartana was going to switch in. So instead, he switches in Donphan on a Suicune. That doesn't make sense to me. He had a Melodic in the back. He even could have brought in a Mew if he was like, oh, he may go for Toxic with Suicune. Well, he could have brought in the Mew. Mew gets Toxic and he synchronizes it over to the Suicune. And realistically, in this match, Mew most likely was going to be the defensive answer to Lopunny. So in that sense, Mew's not going to be staying in very long at all. So even the Toxic, I don't think might have been too detrimental to him if he did let the Mew get Toxic. And by him letting Donphan get weakened, one of his answers to Nihilego and Tapu Koko was just about gone. And that put a lot of pressure on the Nidoking. But you guys can go back to what I said about Nexus in this game. Nexus was just not playing aggressive enough. He was not trying to capitalize when he had the chances to capitalize. And then when he left in Kartana in on the Tapu Koko, that match was kind of just going downhill for Nexus at that point. He left in Kartana, and I guess it worked out for him in the long run. I mean, it is what it is. He won, and he had a very dominant victory, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So, yeah, guys, that is going to be the power rankings for week number 6 of UCL Season 3 with yours truly, Leo, SixftHax. I don't know. Just, yeah, what's up? How's it going? So, if you guys do enjoy, hammer on that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to let me know in the comment section below what was your favorite match of this week, or what was your own power rankings for this week. Also, if you like the numbers this way instead, I guess, I don't know, let me know. And with that being said, I will see you all next week with the final power rankings of this season. So later, everybody.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends, it's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6-foot hacks. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks,